Hi there, and welcome back to Continuing Education, a podcast for homeschooling families with actually useful information. And I'm so glad you're here. Real quick, let me ask you something. Have you ever spent a whole morning teaching your kids something like you went all in, and then 2 days later, they look at you with a complete blank look, like it never happened? Yep, me too. And I used to think that meant that I was a bad teacher or that my kid just wasn't getting it. But it turns out that's just how brains work. We all are a little bit of a leaky bucket. And unless we do something specific, the information just drips out. So today I'm going to share a simple strategy that research shows can seriously plug that leak. And the best part is that it takes just about 2 minutes of your day. You don't need any new curriculum, and it works for any age kid. I'm Heidi, and we're going to talk about spaced retrieval, and by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to start using it this week. So let's start with what spaced retrieval actually is, because it sounds fancier than it is. Here's the simple version. Instead of teaching something once and then moving up, you come back to it, briefly, a few times over the next couple of weeks. And when you come back to it, you don't just review it, you ask your child to pull it from their memory. That's it. That's the whole idea. And there are two things that are happening at once here. One is the spacing, basically spreading those check-ins over time instead of all in one sitting. And then the retrieval aspect, which is basically making their brain reach for that information, reach for that answer, rather than just kind of reading again or reviewing it with you. And the second part, the retrieval piece, that's actually where the magic is, because when a brain has to work to remember something, even if it's just a little bit, it remembers it better next time. It's kind of like a muscle that you strengthen when you're using it. And here's a quick example. Say you teach a history lesson on Monday about the causes of the American Revolution. Instead of reviewing it on Tuesday by rereading the chapter, you just ask 2 or 3 questions out loud. Hey, without looking, what were colonists upset about? That's the retrieval. And then you come back to it Thursday. Then you can come back to it the following Monday. Each time the memory gets a little stickier. In our home, we use this technique because my kiddos like to block their work. They are big fans of going all in on one subject for several days or weeks at a time, and then they move on to the next subject. It kind of keeps them motivated to continue on when they feel like they're really making a lot of progress in one subject, and they can retain the information a little bit better. But to keep that information solidified in their brain, we check in on material that was previously covered when they move on. So this ensures that they're still able to recall that history lesson while they're working on their math during that math week. But let's get practical. Here's how to actually do it without adding more to your plate. The first thing is pick your sticky content. This works best with things that need to be memorized or deeply understood over time, things like math facts or phonics patterns, spelling words, science vocabulary, history dates, foreign language words. Basically, just choose one subject to start, just one. Don't go all out on this. The second step is write out 5 to 10 prompts. Now, some of you may be able to just come up with the prompts out of your mind. That's cool. If you need to write them down, just let them be simple questions or prompts. You can write them on index cards, a sticky note on the fridge, maybe a note on your phone. Something simple like, what is photosynthesis? Or spell because without looking. Or what's 7 times 8? Step 3, use a simple review schedule. So after you first teach something, plan to revisit it the next day, 3 days later, 1 week later, 2 weeks later, or build it into a routine you always have, like driving into co-op or going to Friday game days kind of on your way. You can build it in during that time. Whatever method works easiest for you that doesn't require extensive maintenance on your end. That's the whole system. You can put little reminders in your planner, your phone calendar, or just stick the cards somewhere that's visible. And the last step is to just keep review sessions short and low pressure. We're talking 2 to 5 minutes max. And it should be no big deal if they get it wrong. So you could do it in the car or at breakfast or right before you start school. Ask the questions, let your kid answer from memory. And if they get it wrong, okay, that's cool. You can give a quick hint. You can reteach in 30 seconds, then have them say the right answer out loud once, and that's all. If you feel like they're consistently getting things, they're not consistently remembering, maybe you put that in the schedule for later to review a little bit more in depth. And then you can adjust the schedule based on what's hard and what's easy. If your child nails something every time, push it out a little bit further, come back to it in a month. If something keeps tripping them up, bring it back sooner, maybe every other day for a while. You're basically becoming kind of a very low-tech, very chill version of a flashcard app. And parents, I want to say this clearly, this is not a quiz with a grade. Don't make your kids feel pressure about this. There's no pass or fail here. It really is just a workout for the brain. The struggle is the whole point. The struggle to remember the material is exactly what we're going for. That's where the learning happens. Now let me share a little bit of the why behind this, because I think it helps us stick with the strategy when we understand the reason and the science behind it. Researchers have been studying memory and learning for over 80 years, and one of the most consistent findings in all of the research is this. We remember things better when we practice recalling them over time, compared to rereading or restudying them. There's a famous study, you can look it up. It was published in the Journal of Science in 2011, and I'll include the link to it in the show notes as well. Students who tested themselves on material remembered significantly more a week later than students who reread it or even made concept maps. And that finding has been replicated over and over. And here's the thing that gets me. Rereading, it feels really productive. It feels familiar and comfortable, but that comfort is kind of a trick because the brain isn't working very hard. So that's not building a strong memory. Retrieval is the opposite. It feels uncomfortable because you're trying and sometimes failing to remember something, but that effort is exactly what's building the memory stronger. One more thing I love about this for homeschooling specifically is that it's a teaching strategy that can work across ages and learning styles, so you're not having to learn or do anything different, whether your kid is 6 or 16, whether they learn easily or have dyslexia or ADHD. This approach adapts to all of that. You just change the amount, the format, and the vibe. Your wiggly 5-year-old might answer questions while bouncing on a trampoline, and a teenager might answer on a whiteboard. The mechanism is all the same. But let's talk about the different learning styles and the different ages. So there are some practical variations, and I'm going to give you some examples of some just because I feel like kind of reviewing these helps me kind of brainstorm what works best for my own kids. If you have anxious or high pressure kiddos, I have a kiddo who, when they're doing computer work, they don't like hearing the sound when they get something wrong. And so we have adapted for things like that, right? So if you have a kiddo who's kind of like that, keep your voice super casual, frame it as a game, not a check or a quiz. You can even just throw a ball back and forth. You can ask a question with each toss. Movement does help drop the stress, so you can do something when you're moving. For kids who love to write, have them flip over their notes or close their book and write down everything they remember about a topic, then check together. This is called a brain dump, and it's pretty effective at helping them kind of put together the things that they remember and working the muscle as well as helping them see their own progress. For wiggly or active learners, ask review questions during a walk around the block or while playing Legos or during snack. The movement doesn't distract for some kids. Some kids, the movement actually is helpful, right? They need that. If you have lots of ages, maybe you have a variety of ages in your family that you're working with, do a quick family review round at the start of school where each kid gets questions at their own level. It can become a fun rhythm, and older kids often enjoy being the ones who know the answer. All right, I'm going to give you a challenge this week if you're up for it. Keep it tiny so you'll actually do it. Pick one subject. Write out 5 questions on index cards or in your phone, and then set a reminder for whatever time frame you want to do this for. Tomorrow, 3 days from now, and a week. That's the whole experiment. That's the whole challenge. Come back and tell me how it goes. Seriously, I would love to know if this is something that you currently do. Reach out, send a message, drop a comment, whatever works for you. I'd love to know what subject you picked and whether your kid really surprised you with what they had retained. Because here's what I think you'll find. Your kid probably knows more than they think they do. They just need a little nudge to reach for it. And you probably are doing a lot better of a job than you think you are. Thanks so much for spending time with me. You're doing something incredible by showing up and learning how to teach your kids better. It matters more than you know. See you next time.